Now it is. And we will hold a Q&A session at the end. And so, as we mentioned, you can put your questions in the chat during the programming as they come up. You can put them in there during the Q&A. And I think we're also going to unmute your mics at the end. So if you want to just speak up too at the end, you'll have that capability. So tonight, Christiana is going to cover a variety of the robust services that are offered from Wharton Career Services. And, after speaking with her to put the program together, I was even astounded at how much they have. They really do have something for everyone. So, whether you're looking for your next job or you're thinking about a career switch, or if you're thinking about a board seat, or you just need advice negotiating your salary, they really have something for you. They have so many services that we can all take advantage of. So just a little bit about Christiana before I turn it over. She is a director at the Career Services Office. She's based out in San Francisco. She specializes in career coaching, and she's helped current students and alumni really focus on, narrowing down what it is that they want to do and really executing on their career plans. She has built a lot of extensive relationships in the Bay Area, and she really makes it a priority to stay on top of all the latest technologies and hiring trends that are coming out of the Bay Area. But her industry experience goes far and beyond just tech. I think she can help you with almost any industry, whether it's real estate, CPG, media and entertainment, private equity, or nonprofit. The list just goes on and on. So she's really a valuable resource, and we're very lucky to have her tonight. And on the personal side, I think she's an avid traveler, but Christiana, I'm sure COVID has put a little bit of a monkey wrench in that for you, as it has for all of us. So hopefully with the vaccine coming out, you can get back to some of your passion. And I think many of us share that passion with you. So with that said, we can get the programming started, and I will turn it over to Christiana.
Great. Thank you so much, Farah. That was the perfect introduction. I was, rehearsing a little bit of my intro, and yours was definitely much better sounding than mine. So yes, the travel has been, well, I'm sure, like everybody else, COVID has really put a wrench in like our plans, but yes, you're right. Like I hope to get back out there. And I think the first place I'd like to go is Japan. Would be really awesome. So anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and kick things off. As Farah mentioned, my name is Christiana Wu, director in our career management office. I focus on our semester in San Francisco program for our students, and I work closely with our alum as well. So I do both advising, do a bit of employer engagement. I also, work on programming. So we do all kinds of alumni programs, and we'll go through some of that in just a bit. I do want to take some time and introduce my colleagues who are on the call. So we have Gabby Thomas, who is here, and we also have Kara Costello, our fearless leader of our alumni career team. So I'm going to go ahead and let Kara, take a few seconds to introduce herself. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Christiana. Thanks, Farah and team. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I've been with Wharton going on a couple of decades. My first decade was spent helping MBA students in areas of real estate, travel and hospitality, media and entertainment. And about 10 years ago at the time, we realized, as we would work so closely with their students when you were 2 years on campus, how many students wanted to keep in touch with us, right? Mid-career, later career, and just feel like we could support them lifelong. So we petitioned the dean at the time, who was, about 10 years ago, to create a vertical dedicated to alumni career management. So you're going to see 10 years of what we built here today, and just really proud of it. We're so happy to have both Gabby and Christiana on the team. And one of our biggest assets is our career coaching that you get complimentary sessions in. And Christiana, just one of our best advisors on the team, and Gabby too. So it's exciting to be with you all tonight, and thanks so much for having us. And I guess with that, I'll pass to Gabby for her intro. Thank you.
Thanks, Kara. Yeah, so like the team mentioned, I'm also part of the Alumni Career Services team. During tonight's sessions, I'll be the one monitoring the chat and responding to any questions you have. I'm also happy to share any direct links to any of the resources Christiana mentions, but as a reminder, you'll get access to this slide deck and the direct links after the presentation too. But in terms of how I personally can be of service to you all after this presentation, I conduct complimentary resource overviews of our website and other career-related services. These sessions take a deeper dive into the resources that Christiana is going to go over tonight and show you exactly where to find everything. And they're typically over Zoom, about 30 minutes long. But the benefit of that is that they don't count against your 2 free advising sessions that you get as an alum. because we find that having these resource overviews beforehand and exploring what's available to you allows for a more rich and robust conversation with our advisors. And we'll go over later how to sign up for resource overviews and appointments. It's all through our system called Career Path. But I just wanted to make sure that you saw all of our faces. You knew that this is an option available to you too, so it's not just a one-off presentation. But with that, Christiana, I'll pass it back off to you.
Great, thanks, Gabby. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and let's see. I think you can see my presentation. Gabby, maybe give me the thumbs up if you can. Perfect, thank you. All right, let's go to slideshow mode. Okay. First, I wanted to tackle the question of, the job market and where we are. I'd like to kind of give a brief overview because this is a common question, especially coming off of a very tumultuous year. One of the most common questions we get is like, how's the job market? Well, you know what? There's obviously some areas have been negatively impacted, and then there's some bright spots. And so what I would just say is, yes, we had a really tough year, and one thing's for sure, though, we are coming out of it. I think that, it's fair to say there is an end in sight to COVID. And so I think the market is responding accordingly. But, what we did see, and, unfortunately, I think this is not any new news to anyone on the call, is that certain areas have been negatively impacted, such as retail, entertainment. And when I say retail, I mean like more of the brick and mortar retail and travel, for example. These are areas have been negatively impacted. However, some areas that have actually come out of COVID doing well are areas within, and this is the areas that I tend to focus on, technology. So technology as a whole has done pretty well, but specifically certain subsectors. So things like ed tech, health tech, fintech, such as like the payments, platforms have been doing well, and startups. And then as a result of startups, VC, venture capital. And so there are certain areas that have definitely are considered bright spots. Overall, what we've seen from our employer side is that, and I'm talking a little bit about, from an on-campus recruiting perspective, we've definitely seen some numbers decline as far as companies coming to campus to recruit in that more sort of formal on-campus setting. But what the good news is, what we have seen is an uptick, more so the numbers compared to last year at this time for job postings. And so that's really important for everyone here on the call, since you are all alum, that the job postings, or what we call just-in-time off-campus job postings, have gone up compared to last year at this time. So what we're seeing is there's still an active hiring, but they're just shifting the process from maybe more of an on-campus to an off-campus, which again relates to everybody here on the call. So from an employer standpoint, hiring is still robust. We as alumni advisors, if there are things negative, if there's anything that happens in the marketplace, particularly if there's downsizing going on, we are one of the first to see it, and what I will say is that we have not seen the, level of downsizing that we've seen in prior years, meaning like in 2008, for example. So things are still very strong. A lot of the requests that we get for advising are around, interviewing. So interviews are happening, or offer management. So offers are being, are happening. And so this is all really good news. From an alumni perspective, I will say that, kind of like our employers are being a little bit more cautious, so we may see processes, like hiring processes, taking longer than maybe they used to be. What we're also seeing is some caution on our alumni side. Maybe alumni are just not as ready to make that 180 pivot that they once were, at least not until, things kind of like settle down a bit, especially again with, COVID being the major factor here. So overall, really positive about the market. We're seeing in our metrics with our employers hiring and placement, even on our student side. So all good news. And let me move on to our resources. So what I'm going to spend a good chunk of our time, and we'll be presenting for about 30 minutes, and we'll leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. Please, though, don't wait until the end to ask your questions. If you have any questions that are, that come up as I'm going through the slides, please go ahead and put them in the chat box, and Gabby will field them. Either we'll save it to the end, or please feel free, Gabby, to interrupt me, and we can tackle the question, especially if it's appropriate at that time. So what I'm going to do is cover career resources, but I also want to take some time to talk about ways that you can engage with the community. As you know, one of the biggest assets to being a Wharton alum is having that Wharton alumni network. And, the network is so strong because alumni choose to stay engaged. And so if you're interested and you have time, we encourage you and we invite you to get engaged, and we can tell you how. So let's talk about the career resources. So first off, I think one of the best resources that we have is advising. And as Gabby mentioned, we do offer 2 complimentary advising sessions per alum per year. So you are entitled to, again, there isn't a hard, I think something that Kara mentioned, it's not a, it depends on your situation. If your situation warrants like an extra session, or, we can make adjustments. And so it's not a hard number, but we do like to kind of keep it just because of the demand. And so here's the thing, something that Farah mentioned, there's something for everybody. So maybe you're in a position where you are not sure what you want to do when you grow up, right? And this doesn't necessarily have to be, you could be less than 5 years out from MBA, or maybe you're, 10 years plus out from MBA, and you've reached a point where you've enjoyed your career so far, things have been going fine, but you're at a point where you want to try something new. And that is totally fine. And we see that quite a bit. But maybe you don't know what you want to do. Maybe you just know that you don't want to be doing what you're doing right now. And so we do have career assessments, one of them being Career Leader, that we recommend. We have our students take them as a requirement, but we also offer that up to our alum. And it's also of no cost to you. So, Career Leader, if you have never taken it before, it's a 40-minute kind of questionnaire. And what's nice about it is it kind of spits out this nice sort of like 10-page document that goes into more detail around your interests, your strengths, and your motivators. Much of the information that you will see on the Career Leader report is not necessarily new, but I think what's nice is that it scales it for you. So it tells you just how much more of a strength, let's say, collaboration is compared to, let's say, financial analysis or something of that sort. So it's just a nice way of breaking down your skills, interests, and motivators in a way that kind of maybe can cut through some of the fog. Okay, another thing that we often help our alumni with is devising a job search strategy. So, the thing about a job search, as I kind of describe it, is it's pretty nebulous. It's like, where do you start? How do you go about it? It can feel very daunting. And, that's where, we come into play, where we can help you devise an action plan and prioritize and help you talk through maybe some of the areas that are priority for you, because it can be very, again, the word is daunting, where you just feel like you're being pulled into a lot of different directions. Maybe there's a lot of noise that you're hearing from like external sources, and you just don't know where to begin. So we can help you kind of cut through that fog as well by coming up with an action plan. Now, areas that we also work with you on are tactical elements. So we can help you with your resume, beefing up your LinkedIn profile, helping you with interviews. And, let's say you have an interview coming up and, maybe it's been a while since you've interviewed. It's like, okay, what are some of the latest like behavioral questions? What if I get asked a case question? How do I tackle that? How do I prepare? So we can help you with that. And we can do mock interviews as well. That's actually a pretty common request of our advisors. Another thing is offer negotiation. This is something that I think you'll find us pretty beneficial for, because not only can we help you tackle how do you go about an offer negotiation, like how do you approach it, but also we can supply you with comp data. So, let's say that, you want to make a pivot, you want to make a shift, or maybe let's say you've never worked in technology and you are looking to interview for an opportunity. What do the pay bands look like? What do the salary bands? What does equity look like? Bonus, is bonus even part of it? So we can help you with that. And we do have comp data, alumni, as well as employer data. Now, I talked a little bit about some of the tactical elements, and maybe, I kind of call it maybe a little bit more transactional, but some of the other areas we also help you with are situations. So if you're in a situation where, let's say, you are looking for ways to effectively manage up, maybe you're having issues in the workplace. It happens to all of us at some point. If you're, let's say, maybe you're not gelling with the team and you're like, okay, what are my options? How do I best handle that? And we can walk you through some best practices. So it doesn't feel like an all or nothing, where, you might feel like, oh, do I have to grin and bear it? Or do I just leave my team? There's lots of other options along that spectrum that we can tackle to try and alleviate that situation. And then obviously career progression is another area, especially for many of our folks out there who are looking at that next step. It's like maybe you're just fresh out of MBA and you're like, okay, this is a stepping stone to what I eventually would like to do in 5 years or 10 years. How do I, make the appropriate steps to ensure, or at least to put myself in a good position in achieving that 10-year goal? And then external coaching, I want to highlight, for those of you, again, we offer 2 complimentary sessions a year, but if you find that you're someone that could really benefit from having regular coaching, like let's say on a more frequent basis, we can make referrals for you on, external coaches that might be of help. And that one is of charge. So everything that I'm talking about so far has been, no cost, but external coaching, there's a cost, but we can definitely make referrals, because I think that, choosing a good external coach, it's kind of like finding a doctor, right? Like you want some referrals. It's a very relationship-based service. Okay, let me move on now to Career Path. So Career Path is our portal where we house our alumni job board, and where we also have our alumni resume book. It's also where you can sign up for appointments with myself, Kara, Gabby, or anyone else on our team. And you can access it by going to that link. And, Gabby, if you wouldn't mind putting the link in the chat box so people can kind of copy paste it. I do want to take a few seconds to highlight our job board, because I think our job board is pretty special in that, unlike other job boards, meaning like Indeed or LinkedIn or what have you, these jobs are curated. So these are opportunities that come to us from alum, from our recruiter contacts, from employers. We do source them as well through our relationships with employers. And so, while it may not be as robust as, let's say, an Indeed, where we don't have mass numbers of opportunities, but they are very, very much curated. And another benefit to these jobs, oftentimes you will see a contact name and information in the profile, which is incredibly important for, as you know, many of you may know, that an effective job search and something that we talk about as advisors all the time, whether good times or bad times in the economy, is that networking is so important in terms of in order to carry out an effective job search. And so having a contact, for a job opportunity, you can imagine is just that much more beneficial. It gets you that much more noticed. So, if there's a job, so going back to our job board, having a job with a contact, and oftentimes that contact is the hiring manager, it's like you can see just how beneficial that is. And just a note here, there are jobs on our job board that apply to all levels of career. So it's fresh MBA as well as mid-career executive level, and also international opportunities. I will say that the majority are domestic-based opportunities, but we do have international ones as well. And then our alumni resume book, that's, I would call it low-hanging fruit. If you are in a job search or want to be considered for opportunities, I would say throw your resume into the book. We do have suggested templates that are on our alumni site. So they can, especially if you're wanting to if you haven't visited your resume in a while. But I think it's, again, low-hanging fruit, something to put in there. We do advertise or market our alumni resume book. And when employers come to us and they're looking for potential alumni hires, we share that resume book with them. So if that's something that you'd be open to, I'd say, feel free to kind of throw your hat in the ring. And yeah, as I mentioned, and here's a little note about coming soon, we will have alumni compensation data available in Career Path, but as of now, we have that information. We do have that information, but we don't have it publicly available. So if you'd like to get more information, just sign up for a time with one of us and we can share that to your specific industry and or function. Okay. Let me just stop for a second because I feel like I've been talking a lot. Are there any questions in the chat box so far, Gabby?
So far, no.
Okay, no problem. I'll just keep going on. And again, if any questions come up, just feel free to, you can interrupt me as well, Gabby. So other resources that we have on-demand programs. And what I mean by that is videos with really great information. And, so let me give you an example. There is a book that was written by one of our colleagues from another school, actually another business school, which I'm very familiar with at Duke, Steve Dalton. He wrote the book, 2-Hour Job Search. And it is, I would say it's a very beneficial book to read if you want to, if you need some structure around the job search. Because again, job search is a very nebulous process. And I will tell you, Steve comes from a process engineering background and he's totally has engineered that process for the job search, which I actually find, and maybe many of you who either have technical backgrounds or just being an MBA, you might like processes. And if you like lists, then that is a great resource for you. So we have, there's the book, but we also have video footage of Steve walking through the process on our website. So you could check it out if you're, again, in a process where you're like, I just need some structure, check out our videos. We also have videos on how to create an effective LinkedIn profile or how to network effectively. There's all sorts of videos that we have. And this is video as well that is specific to Wharton. So we've consulted with our experts and got them to do these videos for us. So we're really proud of the information that's out there. The other resource that I want to take some time to highlight, because you might remember it as a student, and if you don't, that's okay too, because I think a lot of our students don't even know about it, is the Lippincott Library. Lippincott Library, why I want to emphasize this is because let's say that you're in a position where you're about to interview with a company. Maybe it is in an industry or a function that you're not an expert at, or maybe you just need to know more about the company. Let's say you're interviewing at Google, for example, and you want to know what are some of the latest and greatest, what's the news going on? And you want to know something beyond just, I guess, Googling the information, right? You want to know more about this company. This is where you go to Lippincott because they've got some really great databases. These are proprietary databases. Again, these are available to you free of charge. We sponsor those resources for you. And you can, let's say pull up an analyst report or get some like news feeds on a particular industry. Now, there's a lot of databases that are part of Lippincott that's available to you as an alum. So I also encourage you, if you're, trying to figure out or wade through what those options, what are the best resource, what are the best library databases to use, I'd say even just send an email or send a message out to one of the librarians. When you go to our site, which links you to the Lippincott Library page, you can just quickly chat or send a message to one of the Lippincott librarians for advice on that. And we use it as well when we're trying to get more information on an employer, and I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. So quickly going through this of executive search lists, if you're looking for an executive recruiter, we do have recommended recruiters that we also have relationships with. Also, we have Wharton alum who work at some of these firms. They include some of the large bulge bracket recruiters as well as boutique ones. And we also have it divided up by industry. So if you're like, let's say social impact and you're looking for an executive recruiter, we have that broken up. Going global is great if you're looking at international jobs. And so it's sort of a one-stop shop that has all the information that, that you would need: work authorization, maybe popular job boards for that region if you're looking to work internationally. That's great. And then interview stream, terrific platform specifically if you want to get interview practice. Now, again, we as advisors can do mock interviews with you, but one of the main tips I give to people who need work on interviewing is practice. Practice definitely makes perfect when it comes to interviewing, and Interview Stream allows you to practice using a bank of questions that we've actually inputted into the system. So these are frequently asked questions that you would get in an interview, and it allows you to kind of, practice. The thing about it that is actually a plus, but it can be a little nerve-wracking, is you get to watch yourself too. So you can film yourself and then look at the recording and see that how you come across on camera. Now, because we're doing a lot of Zoom interviews, and I think we'll probably be doing Zoom interviews for a while, I think Interview Stream could be particularly helpful, especially if you don't know how you look on Zoom. And then we have a board of directors search as well. Some of you out there might be looking to serve on a board. We have a whole page dedicated to those resources, including a board of directors resume book. We also have tips on how you want to go about a board of directors search as well. And I have a slide in a couple slides later that will go in a little bit more detail. But so all of those resources, I know I just kind of dumped a lot at you, and here's what it looks like visually. So if you go to our site, and you can see the link right at the bottom there, you can access all that information right here. So I bookmark it myself. I think it's worth having. It just is your kind of go-to place for any career questions. Okay, and we also have another page on our site that breaks it up. Let's say that you know what resource you want to go after, then this is great. But let's say that you're like, where do I start? Right? I don't know. There's a lot of great resources. But I do know that I am looking at social impact careers, or I know that I'm at this stage, I'm at the networking stage. Then it divides it up according to stage, industry, and let's say focus area. We also have an area that's targeted for, women, Wharton women. And what are some ways that you can build a community among Wharton women? So there's all kinds of, different scenarios here on this page. And okay, let me touch upon board of directors. So board of director, we do have a board of director resume book. We have over 1,200 resumes in the book. We actively market it as well to executive recruiters and to companies looking to fill boards. And I would say that, whether you're looking at board positions at the nonprofit level or profit level, maybe you're thinking about, you've never served on a board before and you'd like to, try out a board, or maybe you've had a lot of experience with a board and want to see what other options are out there. There are a number of resources here on this page that can help you. And we as well, I would say that as a start, you may want to look at this page, but then sign up for a time with us and we can walk you through not only some of the options, but also talk about how you might want to craft a board of directors search. I would argue that a board of directors search, just like any other job search, requires a heavy deal of networking and a certain level of proactivity. I love the resume book. I think it serves its purpose, but I also think that it needs to be accompanied by a proactive search of the first question I would ask if you're interested in a board is, what are your goals, right? What would you like to do on a board? What are some of the skills that you would like to utilize? Maybe there's areas of your, resume or your background that you'd like to flex more. That you're not able to do in your current job, or maybe there are gaps in your resume that you would like to fill, by serving on a certain board. So all kinds of these questions we'll walk through before we decide what's a good fit. Okay. And here's the page that houses the videos that I had mentioned, and there's the URL at the bottom, so you can kind of see what they look like. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about ways to engage. But okay, before I will stop for just a second because I just went through all the resources pretty quickly. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions, Gabby?
So far, no questions in the chat.
Okay. Well, we'll have plenty of time at the end. And I just want to be mindful of time. Okay, so I do want to talk about ways to engage. Now, you might be hiring. If you're looking to hire Wharton or undergrad students, there are options. You can submit a job posting through our MBA site, MBA jobs at wharton.upenn.edu. If you're looking more for undergrad hires, you would send that through a different email address, but there's the address right there. And, lots of other ways to participate. If you'd like to be part of a panel, or maybe you want to, participate in, to represent your employer at one of our hiring events. Again, lots of ways to do that. I would say that maybe you just don't know where to start. You just know you want to get involved. I'd say Alumni Supporting Careers is a good place to start. Alumni Supporting Careers is a program that was launched in response to COVID. It really was, and we were getting a lot of outreaches from alums saying that they wanted to get involved. Maybe they just weren't sure how. And so this is a great sort of intake survey. It takes 3 minutes to complete. Provide your information, maybe ways that you might want to get involved, and then we'll reach back out to you and we can talk about how to do that. Yeah, so again, if you know that you are looking specifically to hire, you can go ahead and just send opportunities to those email addresses. Otherwise, if you don't know, that's quite all right too. You can just fill out the Alumni Supporting Careers survey and we can take care of the rest. Other ways to get involved, as you can see, there's social media. If you're a social media guru and you love posting on Instagram and Facebook and all that, I encourage you to participate in Wharton social media sites. The other way to get involved, like I said, we have programs such as like power dialogues, or what they used to be called power dinners when they were in person. If you'd like to speak to the students, we have, panels that we run. We also partner very closely with our student clubs. And so, for example, I'll just give you a specific example. I had a recent, not a recent alum, I had an alum from about 10 years ago who's pretty senior exec working at Adobe. And he reached out and he just said, I just really want to get involved, or, do you, have any events where you might need me? And it was perfect timing because we were launching a series of power dialogues, which are these small group student dinners or dialogues with a senior level alum. And we got him to do a power dialogue event. We had that in early December, and it went off really well. He really enjoyed it. He's already raised his hand for another event. And so it's things like that. Like maybe you just don't know exactly how you want to get involved, but if you reach out to us, we can find something for you, because we love having our alumni participate. And then there's WAC.
Sorry, there's a question that was raised about the resume books in particular and just how they work. Is it a database that employers have access to? She asked if there's a deadline, and will we have to upload the resumes ourselves after that date?
There isn't a deadline, it's a rolling basis, but we do make that available to employers who request it. So employers say, I'm looking to see if you, have alumni who are, I'd like to see a list of alumni who are interested in opportunities. We share that with them. So that's how we go about it. We do market it as well. Like if we're talking to employers, we let them know we have an alumni resume book. So if they're looking to hire, we're happy to share that as well. So it is a rolling basis. There really isn't a deadline. There are some best practices though around the resume and the formatting and all of that. And so before you upload into the alumni resume book, and yes, you do upload it yourself into the resume book. But before you do that, I would say take a look at some of the best practices as far as our resume templates. And there's a lot of information there. And then sign up for a time with one of us, and we can help to do a resume critique and get it to a solid place before we upload it.
And Christiana, if you don't mind me adding, I personally am the one who sources those resume books when employers put requests through. And what I would suggest, because we've talked about career path a lot, which is our job board. It's where we have appointments. It's where we do the resume books. There's an option for you to build out your profile. And we use those criteria to source the resume book. So whatever your desired industry is or your desired function, check to make sure that your profile is as robust as possible, because those are the criteria I use to filter through the resume books to find ideal candidates. So just kind of a note and an aside, if someone needs help with that, I'm happy to kind of direct people to that too.
Thanks, Gabby. Thanks for that. Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm almost towards the end, so we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. But one thing I wanted to highlight on this slide is WAC, or it's our acronym for Wharton Alumni Career Chats. And it is a student to alumni mentorship platform. So you think LinkedIn, but it really is a more curated list of alum that are in there, and students who are looking to build some connection and relationship. I feel like LinkedIn is a great resource, but it's kind of so big now that people are kind of anonymous to each other. And I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I reach out via LinkedIn, I don't often get a great response, and a great response rate, I should say. I think that we get bombarded with requests all the time on LinkedIn to connect, and if I don't know the person, it does make it hard to kind of build a connection with that person. So WAC is really meant to kind of fill the gap in that regard. And again, it's only student to alumni, but if you'd like to mentor a student, and again, you can choose the level of involvement that you want to engage in. So if it's like once a month, maybe it's less frequent than that, or maybe it's more frequent. You can specify that in the platform. Okay, great. And here's our team. I kind of wanted to leave you with this last slide so that you can see the faces and the names and a little bit about ourselves. As you know, Kara, myself, and Gabby were on the call. Terry and Susan are other advisors as part of our alumni team, and they are terrific. We've been working with them for a while, and you can see their specialties down there. So I would say that we are all equipped to handle just about every, kind of topic or career topic. And, we cover a range of different industries and functions. So I'd say that, if you were to sign up for a time with any one of us, I think you'd be I would guarantee you'd be in good hands. And I don't make
Thanks, Christiana. There's one other question here relating to the resume book, just around whether alumni should only consider adding their resume if and when they're starting to seek or be in the job search process, or if they should always just kind of keep it in there in case there's opportunities that are a good fit for them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think that, I think generally speaking, I think it's always good to kind of have your resume ready to go and have it in the system, because you just kind of, it's always good to keep your eyes open for other opportunities. That's my 2 cents. I do recognize that maybe there's a concern maybe some of you might be thinking, oh, but what happens if my employer sees it or it gets hold of it and they see that I'm in the book? Well, the way that I would argue, I wouldn't worry too much of that as an issue, because I feel like, it's always worth being kind of putting yourself out there. And and let me also point out, I love a good resume book, and I think ours is a strong one, but I want to encourage you that resume books, I don't want to oversell a resume book either. I don't want to kind of give the impression that a resume book is in everybody's hands and they're looking at every day. There's like hiring managers looking at it. In other words, I think it's a great resource. I think that, I think it's always good to keep your doors open by having your resume in it. But if you're doing an active, let's say that you are of the former scenario and you are actively looking for a job, I think resume book as part of the overall job process, I would say that having your resume in the resume book, in addition to actively networking and proactively going after the opportunities you're looking for, makes sense. So in short, I think it's worth having your resume in there. But if you're actively searching for a job, I'd say in addition to a resume book, you want to actively have a proactive job search too. Anybody want to add anything there? questions? Okay, well, that's our team. Now you know what we look like. And yeah, now we're at the Q&A part. So please feel free to check your questions in the chat box. I think we can also, I think as Farah mentioned, we could unmute you as well if you'd like to just ask your question.
Yeah, if you want to also unmute yourself, you can. Let's just try to do it in an orderly fashion.
You can stop sharing. There we go.
Is this a future Wharton alum?
I think so. I hope so.
Oh, I'm sorry, singing in the... Sorry about that, guys. I'll mute.
Always nice to hear some singing. We never mind.
That's my 3-year-old Chloe singing in her shower upstairs with mom. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that was lovely. That was really cute.
He likes
We
to
use a
sing.
little singing in 2021, right? 2020 and 2021, a little more singing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, do you see?
Christiana,
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
a question just came through about asking if you could speak more to using an executive search list / recruiter and how they work with Wharton alumni. You know, is it a free service, or where do we stand in that relationship?
Yeah, so executive search, I mean, there are, okay, so executive recruiters, here's my tip on it. Most executive recruiters should be free of charge to you. I mean, they get compensated by the companies that they place you with. We are, you know, the list of executive recruiters that we have on our site are recommendations. These are ones that we have relationships with, and we actually also highlight the ones that we have a strong relationship with. So we make recommendations, but, you know, essentially working with an executive recruiter, you would work directly with them. You know, they are very much in the business of placement, essentially. So they're there to kind of find the right opportunity and match you with it. I just have to put something out there, and I say this, is that I think executive recruiters are great depending on your situation. So in other words, if you're looking for a role that is a good match for what you're doing now, then they're fantastic. You know, they can really, you know, you can really see the benefit of working with an executive recruiter. However, if you're looking to make any kind of pivot, and what I mean by that is maybe you're looking to make a functional change or an industry change or both, then executive recruiters, you'll find, are not as helpful. And it's simply because, you know, if you look at it from their business model, they're there they get compensated by finding the right match for a company's job posting. Are they going to put somebody who has that experience in front of the employer or somebody that doesn't? And so, you know, they're motivated by putting the right match for the job. So if you don't have that direct experience, I think what you'll find are executive recruiters can be maybe not as, working with them is not as fruitful. So that's my advice, is if you're doing a pivot. However, you know, if you are looking for something maybe that's at the next level and it's the same function, same industry, all of that, then executive recruiters can be great. And so what I would say is take a look at the list that we have on on our Alumni Resources website, and you can take a look. And we also divide up the executive recruiters by industry focus. So again, if you're, let's say, interested in technology, we have some recommended recruiters. And I'd say reach out directly to them, you know, ask about, I'd like to get connected with your, let's say, technology sector representative. I'd love to submit my resume for opportunities that you're seeking. I would actually request even a call with one of their recruiters, one of the recruiters on staff, to discuss, like, who are the companies that they recruit for? What are the types of opportunities? Would you be a good fit for the firm? And there's so many executive recruiters out there. So I feel that a lot of it is also about match, right? Are the types of opportunities that they source the right fit for you? And so you're doing just as much investigation as they are. But anyway, we do put out some recommended executive recruiters that we've had relationships with.
Christina, this is Adrian.
Yeah, sure.
Couple of questions. one, given the climate over the last few months, coming out of the summer, a lot of companies, were talking about improving their diversity numbers, looking for, minority and women executives for their boards and such. Being that Wharton is the #1 business school in the world, are you seeing an uptick from executive recruiters looking for us, for the folks that you see on this call? And how do we engage best with those folks so that we start filling some of these very senior roles at companies that companies are now looking to fill?
Yes, that's a great question, Adrian. And so, yes, we are seeing that from our employers. Maybe just one metric to let you know about. You might remember when you were at Wharton as a student, we have an on-campus recruiting process where employers come to campus. And so that's one metric that we look at. The employers that come to campus have been very vocal about making diversity a priority. So they are looking, and when I say diversity, it's diversity on gender, race, on multiple elements. So they are looking for, and that is an initiative that we're seeing companies take a very strong stance on. So the answer is absolutely yes. And then we also and maybe just as a flip side, talking about board of directors, a board of directors search. There are a number of resources that we also have that are very focused, because there is an emphasis on bringing more people of color and women onto boards. And so if you go onto our site, we actually have a number of organizations, or I'd say, organizations that are dedicated to that. And so in any case, let's answer the question, how do you get in front of these folks that are looking to build out either their boards or build out their employee base? Well, I think number one, it starts with first understanding. This is what I always tell to students and alum. It's first ask yourself this. It's one, what are the companies that you're interested in looking at? So rather than the companies that are looking to hire you, I want you to first ask the question of who do you want to work for? Which companies have the same culture, mission statement, all of that you would like to work at. And then from there, what we do is we network. We network with folks, yes, we could look at recruiters, because we know that is part of their directive, is to improve their diversity and inclusion. But we also want to talk to people who are working in the functional area. Because here's the other thing, and what we're also seeing is that there are, and I think we've always seen this, is that, I feel like diversity and inclusion is a topic that has been, companies have at least said that is important to them. I think it's even more important now. But some companies, it's lip service. Let's be honest, some companies, how far have they really, taken that? Is it something that is ingrained as part of their company, or is it just as part of their mission statement, or is it just something that, again, is lip service? And so I do ask first off to all of anyone in a job search, is ask yourself first, what are the companies, right, that you're looking at? Then step two, let's find people who are working there and I'm talking about more functional managers. So people who are working in your line of interest. So whether that's sales, whether that's product management, and let's talk to people to see really how ingrained is some of the, let's say, diversity and inclusion mission statements and practices. How ingrained is it as part of their business? Is it important to them? Is this a company or even a culture fit for me? And then from there, it's networking with the appropriate hiring managers, and then also let's look at the recruiters as well. But I would say that the process doesn't differ much from what you would do in any thoughtful, proactive job search. Does that answer the question, Adrian?
It does. And the I just have one last question, and I'll release everyone to answer their questions. Um, One of the goals, that we as a board have for this community is to truly have an understanding of value, and
Mhm.
people mid in their career or later in their careers understand what they're truly worth. So often I talk to alumni and they just took a job, and sometimes they take a job and they're getting paid 150, $200,000 less than their white counterparts. In some cases, I've talked with some alumni in this community, and they'll land that job making 675. They'll land that job making 400 plus, whatever the case may be. I'd like to be able to, and you mentioned salaries earlier. I'd like to have a better understanding, or for this community here, this group, to have a better understanding of what people make midway to later in their careers in these respective fields, in the different fields. So I have an idea of what it is in tech. We're going to have some more series on Blacks in Tech, but I'd like to somehow for you to share that information. And it's a lot of information to share right now, but on average, folks that are 10, 15 years out, that are in tech or VC and these other, could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So we do have numbers. I think what you're going to find though is the ranges are quite broad, especially when it comes to, I can speak for tech. I mean, it's a little different if we're talking about consulting, that has this sort of step, it's a very sort of set way that you proceed, that you progress in consulting. You're an associate, senior associate, manager, so on. And so those numbers are a lot more defined. I'd say that the world of tech is broad. I will say that if you're talking about big tech, so like, the Googles and the Amazons of the world, we definitely have more sort of like defined figures, but it's so much of it. I would love to just kind of give you a number and say, yeah, it's this. It so much depends also on function and industry. So, I mean, again, we have those numbers though. So if anybody would like to know more, please feel free to reach out. We could, provide like hard numbers for you, but so much of it does depend on, let's say, your industry or function, how many years of experience. Is this, let's just take tech because we're talking about that. Is this big tech or is this a start? If it's a startup, then I would ask the question, is this seed stage, or are we talking about a series, C or D or later? Is equity a part of it?
But throw out some numbers. I have an idea. I asked the question more so to, because I want other folks on this call to understand, or at least ask that question when they do reach out to you guys, so that you really understand what's potentially out there. Because I find that whether it's in consulting, whether it was in banking, whether it's general industry, we tend to get paid less. We tend to get promoted less. We all make the same amount of money typically coming out of Wharton in terms of those first positions as associates, or even when you get to the VP level. But going a little further out, we tend not to get paid as well. And it's almost, this is just my data points, we get capped at maybe $200,000, $300,000, $400,000.
Okay.
And our classmates are making quite much more than that, especially 5-10 years out, depending on the industry or the field. And I think the better understanding we have of that, the better job we will be able to negotiate for the right money and not just be happy accepting certain offers. And because people get away with paying us less, it just continues. And I just want that information to be out there for this group. And with that, I will be quiet till closing. All right, thank you.
Okay, no problem. I think it's compensation is such it's a question we often get. And yes, I think so I put this out there to the audience. If you are, let's say you're in a position where you're about to talk about leveling up your role. Maybe you're going to have a conversation with your manager about the next level role, or maybe you're interviewing, or maybe you're being a recruiter reached out to you, and reach out to us first to find out what those salary bands look like and what are some of the components you want to be thinking of. It's not just, remember that compensation is not just base, it's also stock options or equity, it's bonus, it's everything, right? So come to us first so we can provide some of those benchmarks before you go into that conversation, and then you'll be armed with the right with more information so you can go in informed. The other thing I want to say is that, so much of also having, leverage, because it is about leverage when you are negotiating an opportunity. It's thinking about, and we also can talk through all of these steps with you. It's not just about, okay, I've had this number of years of experience, or I'm at this stage. It's thinking about your entire value proposition. So what I mean by that is, what are the differentiators? What are the strengths? What are the things that you bring to the table? And being able to articulate that in the conversation. And, sometimes it's also just simply asking. So I'm going to put this out there that, and there is data to support this, that women, for the most part, more so than their male counterparts, do not ask for raises or ask to negotiate at all. They tend to take what is presented. So what we also do is not only arm you with the data, but also just kind of maybe can walk you through, like, how do you even broach that subject? Let's say you're having that conversation with your manager and they want to level you up for the next level. They're like, oh, you're doing so great, we want to give you more responsibility. Okay, how do you start that conversation of, like, love to talk about how the compensation is commensurate with the role? And so we can talk about that too. But yeah, in short, just, reach out to us. I think that, there's such a scenario or situation specific when it comes to information. But yeah, it's always good to have more than less. Yeah. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from the audience?
I have a question, Laura Robinson.
Sure.
I'm in San Diego. And
Hi,
thank
Laura.
you for running this session for us today.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, has your team been able to meet with the new dean yet? And what has been some of the impressions? And I'm sure she's talked about some of the things that you're talking about diversity now, because I read the nice article about her
Yes.
in the magazine. But, obviously you're all going to have to help turn in those numbers. And I was just curious, has she given you any special directives or any special support at this time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We did get a chance to meet Dean James, and she actually, I just have to share this story. She surprised us by appearing on our career management. So our career management team is about, we're a little under 30 people on our team. So it's a smallish group, and we have bi-weekly catch-ups, the entire team. And, for the last year, it's been on Zoom pretty much. And so we're on our Zoom call, we're kind of in our casual work from home. I, did not have my hair all like blown out like this and everything. So everybody's looking pretty casual. And then poop comes on Dean James. She's kind of like, I guess, Zoom, I don't know what you call it. Like, but yeah, she appeared on, it was all planned, but it was a bit of a surprise it was a surprise for us. And we were all, you should have seen the look on our faces. We were all like, oh my God, it's Dean James. We're like, I'm like, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. All right. So anyway, it was great because she just wanted to come on and say hi, introduce herself, and get to know all of us. And so it was a real treat. So specifically to your question, Laura, about, directives around, so you kind of got a sense. I know she came onto one of your alumni club meetings, and she talked probably about some directives. So just to let you know, from a tactical perspective, there is a graduate division team that is assembled that covers various departments across Wharton to talk specifically about this topic, about diversity and inclusion. So this is a graduate division, like cross-functional team that was enacted back in 2019. But I think that, as you can see, even much more appropriate now, given especially with everything going on, and also, what we're seeing on the employer side. So yes, there is a division, a team in place that it meets regularly to, not just talk about these issues, but discuss, but think about ways that we can manifest some of the directives that Dean James has in place. So, granted, she just started, but she has been, really involved. I'd say another thing. I mean, haven't worked directly with Dean James, but I know that our, head of our department does meet regularly with her. And one of the things that she said to us at a staff meeting recently was how involved she is, Dean James is, with sort of wants to know, the really kind of like the day-to-day interactions, also wants to know how our different departments are interacting with one another, which I really like. So it's very much a collaborative approach is how I think Dean James is, but that's her vision. Is not just we're all in these silos, but rather how does Wharton working with, Penn, and how is EMBA working with the full-time program and exec ed, and how everybody's working together. So in short, I'm really excited to report that we have a cross-departmental team that's been in place, but the fact that there are directives coming from our top leadership, and we have a team that works on carrying those out, I think is really promising. So more to come. I would be excited to report back out to you as we see some of those initiatives manifest.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit more for my own use.
Sure.
So I've had a wonderful experience with Wharton over the years. I'm currently retired, and I just do consulting when I want to. I've been fortunate enough that friends and colleagues come to me asking me to do projects with them as they're starting up their own businesses, or I've been primarily in life sciences, in clinical development. So that this is basically the CROs that run the trials for the Mercks and the Pfizers and the different biotech companies. So I've got this sort of network that I've already been working with, but I've seen, gee, maybe I should expand it. And I liked your idea about boards. Maybe I should get on a board to help expand my network beyond the people that I've worked with before.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any particular way to approach that? I mean, they're not looking for me, but once I've understood more about the boards, is there some strategic ways to approach them and say, hey, these are the things I'd like to do, and can I help you in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say sign up for an appointment with one of us.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that would be a great, especially, because everybody's board search or job search is so personalized and so specific to that person. So, I just know that once we start talking about this, we'll probably, you could take it, easily a half hour just discussing your situation. So yes, sign up for a time, and I look forward to talking to you, Laura.
That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I know we're over time. I lost track of the time. We're already at, here on the West Coast, we're at 5:04, 5:05. So, I will pass it back on to Farah. I mean, I'm happy to, answer more questions, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time too.
Yeah,
Hi, Christina, thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Once again for taking the time to do this presentation with your colleagues. Thank you everyone for coming out. I'm going to be brief in my closing. One thing that I want to mention is that we still have an open position on our executive board for treasurer. So those that are interested can reach out to us via the Black Alumni email or in the chat, or reach out to Adrian, Farah, Antoinette, or Obi, the founding board members. So any of those emails that you've seen, you could respond back and let us know. And we will be setting up more sessions like this, but I did promise my colleagues I would be brief, and I think that's pretty brief. So, but thank you, and I hope this was useful for everyone.
It was. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.